how to use the probe to find the depth of your local water at different points around the lake, which can be really useful when working out where the fish want to sit in different weather conditions. In the last video, I showed you how to pair the probe to your device and how to set it up before you start doing this. So if you're just joining us now and you don't know how to do that, maybe check out that last video before you watch this. Now we're on the bank side and we want to use this to test the depth. So all we're going to do is basically get the app up. It's here on the phone. Again, we've already showed you how to set this up, and this is all ready to go. And you can tell it's ready to go because at the bottom it says probe ready and 100% battery. All right. So the way this works, when you cast out and the probe enters the water, it disconnects connection from your phone and then it reconnects when it gets back in and downloads information onto the water, onto the phone, should I say. One little point of caution though. When you first start using the probe, it does take a couple of, I'm going to call them practice casts, just to acclimatise to the water, and then it starts giving proper readings. So the first thing to do, I'm just going to put this down. I'm not even going to worry about the readings on that just now. And I'm just going to have 2 casts, just basically to allow the probe to acclimatise to the conditions. So I'm not really forcing that, chucking probably 20-25 yards there. What I can see, just to show you, as I've cast that in, it says away. So I know the probe is working. I know that as I've cast that probe, it's disconnected from the phone and it's in the water. All right, so I'm now going to reel it in. As I swing that there, you'll see I've got a reading come through. It's sunk to the bottom. You can see we're green again, it's reconnected. It's telling me it's 2.9 metres deep and it's 17.2 degrees, which sounds about right. But as I said, they tell you at probe not to trust the first couple of readings because it's acclimatising. So we're going to have a second cast and we're not going to worry too much. I actually suspect that that is pretty accurate, but we're going to have a second cast and we're going to just let the same thing happen. Let that sink to the bottom. And once it's down there, and it is worth saying, because the probe is reading the water temperature and the depth, it does take a little while to sink. That's all deliberate, so it allows it to get the most accurate reading. And obviously it's often used by lure anglers where they're searching a column of water and reeling in through different layers. So that's what that's all about. So we'll reel that in now. Let's have a look. And again, I felt my phone buzz. So open it up. So again, that's 2.9 metres deep this time. And again, you'll see how it's acclimatised, 13.9 degrees at the bottom. Now, the interesting thing is you can slide that, obviously, and gauge the different temperatures at the different depths. But we'll cover that in a different video. Anyway, so I think we're now ready to start taking readings. So what we're going to do, I'm going to show you a little sample of 3 or 4 different readings and why it's useful to do this. So let's set a marker on here. Now, you can be as technical or as laissez-faire or as laid back as you want to be about this. But I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to cast out to, I'm saying a good length cast, that's 25 metres. If I was fishing a match on this venue, that might be a line I'd fish for skimmers in the cooler months. And I'm going to put a clip on just so I know that I'm searching roughly the same line on a different number of pegs. So that's got down to the bottom. And I'm now going to reel it in. So, and this is actually the cast that I'm going to use to read the information. So let's come back in, watch the screen. And again, the nice thing is now we're seeing some consistency. It's 12.6 degrees, 2.9 metres deep. So we know it's 2.9 metres deep at that length on this peg. Let's move along a bit and see if that changes. Now, it'll be interesting to see whether it does. So we're going to walk along a couple of pegs. Now this is something you could spend an afternoon doing, and I think you get a lot of very useful information. You could quite literally map your whole lake in an afternoon. So here we are, next peg along. Nice big carp cruising there. But let's have a cast out on this peg now. I'm trying to juggle the phone and the rod, which... Okay, so I always like to make sure I'm stood in a similar-ish spot as well to keep things as accurate as possible. And casting pretty much straight in front. No, there we are. So again, we're letting that sink all the way down. And reeling back in. And again, I've heard that buzz as that probe's reconnected in my pocket, so I'm not even going to do anything because I'm going to look at all this data in a minute and show you the outcome. So let's just have a second cast here to make sure that we're getting an accurate reading. I'm sure we are, but again, you can be as thorough as you want to be. You can have as many casts in as many positions as you want to. So that's now sinking to the bottom. That's down there. And we're reeling in. Right, one more peg and then I'll show you what we're actually working towards with this and what you could actually achieve if you spent an afternoon doing it. So we're going another couple of pegs along. Similar sort of distance and casting out into the lake. And again, it's worth just taking your time to make sure that the probe has sunk to the bottom. It's very easy when I've been playing with this. Sometimes you get impatient because you're trying to get as many readings as you can in a short time. But what you really want to do is be thorough and make sure that that's getting to the bottom. So that's at the bottom now. Spooking some carp. Right, one more cast and then I'll show you what we're working towards. And every time, by the way, that I'm reeling that in, I can feel that phone buzzing as the probe reconnects to the phone, and that's what you need it to be doing. So last cast of this little test, and then we're going to show you what I think the coolest feature of this probe is, and that's the mapping technology and how it allows you to really read a venue. Yep, I think that's at the bottom. Right. Let me now show you what we've just created on the interactive map. And again, I've just felt that buzz. The interactive map that this creates, which I think is, when I saw this for the first time myself, so you'll see it's just a log there, the latest reading, 2.9 metres. And you'll see here, we've got all our casts logged, look, in different time profiles, 12:53. So tell her that's the recent one. Now, the interesting thing here is, you'll see, I mentioned again about consistency. It's saying it's 12 degrees at the bottom, it's 3 metres deep here. The last cast on this peg, 12.2, 2.9 metres, so I might have been slightly away from where I was on the cast. Now then we'll be on the peg next to it. There, that's slightly shallower there, 2.6 metres. That's the next peg along. But the thing that I love about the view, and this is what I wanted to show you, if I go back here. Now, here it says Starpot on 7 Astley. Now, I've done nothing to this. Literally, this is what it's done itself. But you'll see, if I zoom in, it's showing locations where I've cast. So if I click on that one there, it's showing the locations from there where we've had that little cast just now. And if I go back again and zoom out, showing where we're stood now, and it's showing the casts that I've done in that location, the readings, and that's obviously all sorted in time and date order. So you've got your date there, you've got what we've just done, Now, this does update, and this is getting better all the time, but that's obviously when we had a play at Larford the other week. But you can see how it maps things very, very nice and accurately. I think this is a wonderful tool. And you can imagine if I spent all afternoon walking around the lake on different pegs, inputting data, you'd have some very interesting results that you could use to influence your fishing and catching more fish. So that is how you use the probe to find the depth at respective points on your local water.